We continue to explore Messerfechten as depicted by Albrecht Dürer.
This is the Kitsune clan, a group of sword enthusiasts who like cosplay, reenactment, and historical martial arts. If you have similar interests, feel welcomed.
In one of our last videos, we had started to explore Messerfechten as it is depicted in the Fechtbuch by Albrecht Dürer. We noted that the Fechtbuch contains a lot of Messerfechten techniques that were shown in other Fechtbücher. It contains the entire set of techniques shown in the Codex Wallerstein, and by this also the techniques shown by Hans Talhoffer. We had also pointed out last time that we finally had the first chicken wing disarms depicted with the first two new plays in Dürer's Fechtbuch. And this time we will continue. We also pointed out that the second new play we looked at last time was the first example of a counter-counter. So where a technique was started, countered, and this counter was also countered. The first play we look at today also is such a counter-counter. So the opponent attacks. We deflect with a half-sword position, with a Wacht, redirect the attacks, and the opponent now switches to half-sword, pushes forward his own Messer handle, and by this blocks our technique. Our counter-counter looks now like the following. We take our left hand, let go of the blade, so we leave the half-sword position. We push it through between the arm of the opponent and his or her blade. We grasp the blade from the flat side and pull. By this, we lock the blade. And now we have the right hand free to attack the opponent. As we've pointed out last time, usually counter-counters are rare and chicken wing positions seem to be rare with the Messer. This here is again both. And if we can look close, this in fact uses another principle than the two types of movements we saw last time, because last time we had a one circle, which means the right hand was performing the disarm and the hand was moving in clockwise direction. Here we have the left hand entering with an anti-clockwise motion, but then making the lock, which could be continued into a disarm, in a clockwise manner. As this is the left hand, this is a one cross motion and adds to the variability of chicken wing type techniques that we see with the Messer. Although it looks very simple and short, it's very, very effective. As I said, this can work as a disarm, but not when the opponent is holding his weapon or her weapon in half sword. If that would be in normal hold, we could disarm the opponent with this very motion, as I just demonstrated here. The next one is a bit special. It's a counter, and it's a very short counter, and it's a bit unusual concerning the movement. Be careful when you perform it. This is very direct and it's easy to hit your opponent in the face. What's happening? We are attacking. The opponent is receiving the attack with half sword in Wacht position and redirecting the force. We can already guess what happens next, because what we already know from countering this type of defense, we also attain half sword position and bring forward our handle. But now we do something new. As soon as our left hand has gripped the blade, we let go with the right hand. We grasp with the right hand over the arm of the opponent. We push our Messer forward, which will come now under the arm of the opponent and under his or her blade. And then we grasp with the right hand again the handle. This is a very short movement, and if the opponent moves forward, he will or she will run into the handle of our sword. You may think at first, this is somehow strange. Why should I let go of my own hand? In this case, the opponent is in half sword. It's very hard to enter into a half sword because it's a very strong position. With this type of letting go and going in, we can break this pattern. We can over and underrun, so to say, the wall that the half sword position represents, and we can land a hit and still have control with the own forearm over the arm of the opponent. If you have some background in other martial arts, you might find similarities here. for example, to Wing Chun Kung Fu, where you often let the force of the opponent run into empty space and go around with your own hand to hit him or her. We had a video of Wing Chun principles applied to the sword. I will link it in the description box. Have a look there, that might help you. How can we continue from here? Yeah, it should be clear. If we really hit the face of the opponent, we can then continue, for example, and perform a back throw because our weapon is already right in the position for the back throw, and so on. This technique is now kind of in the gray zone, we already said. We are mostly interested in the more complex type of Messerfechten techniques, so not the ones where they simply chop off the hands of the opponent. That has a reason, and that's a biomechanical reason. These very simple motions, so a chop off the hand, are in fact tricky to reconstruct because they are only known in the books by images and text, and we have no motion. And there are so many factors of freedom that it is challenging to be sure what was meant and what is right. With the more complex stuff like the disarms and the armbars, there are much more biomechanical constraints for the movement that we can sufficiently reliably reconstruct a motion, and we can say, hey, this fits now to the depictions and to the text. This one here is really in the gray zone. It's basically about hitting the opponent in a strange way, and it's not as restricted as many of the other techniques, but we still can consider this as complex enough. And on the other hand, it's a bit more open than many of the disarms, and I did not find a counterpart in another martial art where I could say this is how they do it today. For example, I did not find it in Filipino martial arts, or I did not find something in Japanese Hanbo Jitsu or some other styles that I usually take for comparison. So I'm lacking a bit of support here. If you have seen other interpretations of that, please tell me. Please post links to other interpretations so that we can also compare that. I think that this interpretation is backed up at least by the principles, and it fits the depictions, and it seems to be very functional. And what I especially like, it's very short, very brief, but very effective. I suggest if you disagree with this interpretation, test it and make some suggestions how we can improve it. I'm open to any discussion in this aspect. We have now further expanded our possibilities with the Messerfechten, and we will continue to do so. Albrecht Dürer has to offer more of these plays. For the moment, we hope that we could inspire you with this, and we hope to see you around next time.